You can feel it, can't you? That quiet anxiety when you walk into a room, wondering if they'll take you seriously, if they'll respect you, if they'll even notice you. You straighten your posture, adjust your voice, try to sound confident. You talk more, explain more, perform more, but somehow it never lands. You walk out drained, replaying every word, every look, wondering why power seems to slip through your fingers the harder you reach for it. Here's the truth you've been avoiding. Power doesn't respond to effort. It responds to energy. The more you chase control, the more it escapes you. Real authority, the kind that makes people pause mid-sentence when you enter, is born from stillness. It's not something you do, it's something you become. It's the invisible gravity that comes from a mind that no longer seeks approval, a face that no longer flinches, a voice that no longer rushes to fill silence. Look around you. The loudest people in the room are rarely the ones in control, the ones who dominate quietly, who make others adjust their tone and pace without a word. They rule through presence. They understand what most never will, that the atmosphere bends to whoever needs it least. You've spent years trying to be heard. Now, you'll learn how to be felt, because the moment your silence carries more weight than another man's argument, you've already won. This is the shift from noise to gravity, from reaction to command. The most dangerous men in history rarely lifted their voices. They rarely raised their hands. And yet, entire courts, armies, and nations bent to their will. Their power did not come from speeches or threats. It came from the weight of their silence. When they entered a room, everything shifted. Conversations faltered, eyes turned, people adjusted their tone without being told. This was not coincidence. It was design. They understood what the weak never will, that presence is command, that true dominance begins long before the first word is spoken. You can see it in every era, from the monarch who rules with a glance, to the modern executive who controls a boardroom without saying a thing. The weak rush to speak, to prove, to explain. The powerful let silence do the talking. The difference is instinctual. One is desperate to be heard, the other is certain he already has been. And so I ask you, when you walk into a room, do people feel your presence, or do they forget you were ever there? Do you move with inevitability, or do you beg the air to notice you? The world is filled with those who mistake noise for strength. The man who talks over everyone at the meeting believes volume makes him leader. The lover who floods messages and explanations believes persuasion earns loyalty. The friend who tries too hard to be liked ends up tolerated, not respected. Each of them has confused performance with power, and each of them leaves the same impression, emptiness hidden behind effort. They do not understand that the harder you try to appear powerful, the more you expose your weakness. A man at peace with his authority does not need to prove it. It emanates from him like heat from fire. Picture a king who must constantly shout to remind his court who he is. The moment his voice fades, so does his influence. His crown becomes a costume, his authority a performance. The more he flexes, the more fragile he appears. The same law applies to the modern age, to the boss who brags, the influencer who boasts, the student who insists on his genius. They all suffer from the same disease, insecurity disguised as confidence. The louder they shout, the clearer the world sees through them. Effort becomes confession. Every exaggerated gesture, every desperate attempt to dominate, whispers the same truth. I am not sure of myself. You think people listen to your words. They don't. They listen to your energy. They study the pauses between your sentences. They read the micro-expressions that flicker before you speak. Before you open your mouth, they've already decided what you are. They judge your posture, your eyes, the rhythm of your breathing, and in those first seconds, the silent vote is cast. If you carry calm inevitability, they adjust to you, they lean in, they edit themselves. If you radiate restlessness, they seize control, they interrupt, they doubt you, they own you without you ever realizing it. This is why so many feel powerless despite speaking endlessly. Their words drown their authority. Their presence evaporates under the noise they create. The truth is cruel. The world is not listening for your argument, it's scanning for your certainty. It's searching for that quiet signal that says this man cannot be moved. The room does not belong to the loudest, it belongs to the most composed, the one whose stillness feels like gravity, the one who does not flinch, does not rush, does not seek permission. Power, at its purest, is not expression, it is containment. Every moment you rush to prove yourself, you tell others you fear their judgment. Every time you justify your choices, you surrender authority. The great mistake of the modern man is believing he must perform power instead of radiating it. He does not understand that control begins internally. Presence is not about words or movement. It is about energy so stable that others instinctively yield. It's the discipline of stillness, the art of waiting while others expose themselves. When your silence grows heavier than another's speech, you've already won. Presence is command without words. It bends people before you act. It silences rooms not because you demand respect, but because your energy makes noise feel cheap. To master it, you must detach from the need to be seen. You must stop chasing validation. The moment you no longer crave recognition, you become unrecognizable to the weak. They sense something they can't name, and they fear it, because they cannot control what they cannot read. When you look like you need nothing, everything is drawn to you. When you walk as if victory is inevitable, no one dares to test your resolve. Ask yourself now, how much of your life has been spent trying to prove what should already be felt? How many times have you overexplained, overreacted, or overperformed, only to feel emptier afterward? That emptiness is the echo of power lost. Every unnecessary word, every nervous gesture, every forced laugh is a small surrender. And people remember. They may not recall what you said, but they remember how you felt and what that feeling revealed. Those who master presence understand that control is not taken, it's assumed. It's not noise that grants it, but silence that protects it. Part of you already knows this. You felt moments when time slowed around you, when others waited for your response before speaking again. That was presence, raw, untrained, but real. The task now is to make it permanent. To walk through life with a still center, immune to noise, immune to performance. Because power doesn't come from proving, it comes from knowing. The world bends not to those who try, but to those who simply are. And yet, most will never learn this. They'll keep chasing attention, mistaking the applause of fools for the obedience of the wise. But you will learn what they won't, because in the next lesson, you will understand the hidden weapon that multiplies presence 100-fold. The power that makes kings wait, enemies hesitate, and entire rooms fall silent before you. The weapon is not rage, it is not charm, it is stillness. Stillness is not weakness, it is the highest form of control. It is the invisible hand that bends chaos into order without ever being seen. The fool believes control means movement, pacing, commanding, filling space with words. The master knows control means anchoring, remaining unmoved while others fidget, flinch, and reveal themselves. Stillness is the signal of someone who knows they have already won. It is the posture of inevitability. When a powerful man is silent, people don't interpret it as emptiness. They interpret it as calculation. Every pause becomes a weapon, every glance a decision. Watch a room carefully. The loudest man is rarely the one in charge. The one truly in command speaks the least, yet every syllable lands like a decree. His stillness pulls gravity toward him. You can feel it. The air seems heavier around him. People lean forward to catch what he might say next. That is the paradox. By speaking less, his words gain more weight. He doesn't fight for attention. Attention fights for him. While others perform, he studies. While they react, he observes. Stillness gives him the map of everyone else's mind before they've even realized what they've revealed. But to achieve that level of stillness, you must first defeat your own restlessness. You must wage war against your internal noise, the endless need to respond, to justify, to prove you belong. Most people are slaves to their impulses. They cannot endure silence because silence exposes them. In quiet moments, their mind screams. They crave distraction, stimulation, validation. They confuse activity with progress, conversation with connection, reaction with relevance. And so they fill every gap with noise, believing that noise protects them. But noise only betrays them. Every unnecessary word leaks information. Every flinch betrays a secret. The wise man's silence, on the other hand, makes him unreadable and therefore untouchable. Machiavelli wrote, that a prince must learn to appear in control even when he is not. But the true art goes deeper, to be in control precisely because you do not reveal whether you are or not. Stillness is this art in its purest form. It unsettles the ambitious, the insecure, and the deceitful alike. They cannot manipulate what does not move. They cannot argue with what does not answer. They cannot predict what does not reveal emotion. The man who can remain still while being attacked controls both the tempo and the tone of the confrontation. The aggressor, expecting chaos, finds nothing but silence, and that silence becomes unbearable. Think of history's greatest rulers, generals, negotiators. Their victories began not on the battlefield or in the meeting room, but in moments of silence where others lost patience. Caesar waiting at the Rubicon, Washington waiting in the snow, CEOs letting the other side speak themselves into ruin. The strong know that stillness forces the weak to reveal themselves. When you pause, when you hold your gaze, when you delay your response, you create a void. The insecure rush to fill that void with words, excuses, and mistakes. You don't even have to fight them, they defeat themselves. Stillness is not the absence of motion. It is motion disguised as patience. It is the slow tightening of control while others exhaust themselves. When you slow down, others speed up. When you remain calm, others panic. They interpret your silence as confidence or as a trap. Either way, they adjust themselves to your rhythm. In this way, stillness manipulates time. It stretches moments, making people wait, making them second guess. The longer they wait for your reaction, the more they overthink. And in that overthinking, they expose everything. Their desires, their fears, their weaknesses. To practice stillness is to practice restraint, and restraint terrifies the restless. They will try to provoke you into movement because your calmness reminds them of their chaos. They will accuse you of arrogance, coldness, or indifference. But what they truly feel is envy. They sense a power they can't match, the ability to act only when it matters. When you master stillness, you no longer chase opportunity, you create it. Because while others waste energy reacting to shadows, you conserve yours for decisive strikes. Imagine yourself walking into a tense negotiation. Everyone is talking, positioning, signaling. You say nothing. You listen. You let silence stretch until they begin to doubt their own offers. You tilt your head slightly, and they rush to sweeten the deal. That is stillness in motion, not passivity, but power disguised as patience. The moment you stop needing to fill silence, you own it. The moment you stop chasing control, it begins orbiting around you. But the path to stillness is brutal. It requires facing your own impulses and refusing to serve them. It requires turning every emotional storm into a mirror. You must learn to remain composed when insulted, to pause when challenged, to breathe when provoked. Every test of your patience is a test of your presence. And every time you pass, the world bends slightly more in your favor. Because people trust what feels stable, and nothing feels more stable than a man who does not flinch. Remember this, a loud man burns fast, a still man burns forever. The former explodes, then fades. The latter smolders until the entire room warms around him. Stillness is the foundation upon which all higher forms of power are built. Without it, charisma is cheap, intelligence is wasted, and authority is temporary. With it, even silence becomes strategy, and every glance carries intent. But this is only the beginning. Stillness may make others hesitate, but there is a deeper illusion that sustains control once stillness has drawn their eyes to you. In the next lesson, you will see how the mask of confidence, fragile yet convincing, can bend reality itself. You will learn how those who appear composed can still be ruled by fear, and how to ensure you never become one of them. Intimidation is the counterfeit currency of power. It buys obedience for a moment, but debt always comes due. You've seen this, the man who rules through threats, who raises his voice to create pressure, who mistakes fear for respect. For a short time, he appears in control. People follow his orders, flatter his ego, play along. But the moment he turns his back, their loyalty dissolves. They obey not because they believe in him, but because they're waiting for his collapse. The illusion of intimidation is the easiest power to create and the hardest to maintain. It feeds on constant effort, and the moment you stop feeding it, it dies. The truth Machiavelli understood, and most never do, is that real authority does not require theater. The tyrant yells because he must. The calm ruler commands because he can. Intimidation is like smoke, thick, impressive, choking, but one gust of wind and it disappears. You don't rule a room by scaring it. You rule it by holding it in your stillness. The powerful man's silence is more unnerving than another's rage. His composure, his lack of visible reaction suggests depths others cannot read. And what cannot be read cannot be predicted, and what cannot be predicted must be respected. Aggression is a shield for the fragile. When a man feels his authority slipping, he tightens his jaw, raises his tone, clenches his fists. He wants to project certainty, but his very effort exposes doubt. The confident do not need to announce control. They know that true pressure reveals what was real all along. Watch how the aggressive crumble when the situation shifts against them. Their anger flares, their words stumble, their eyes betray panic. The man who relies on intimidation depends on the fear of others, and fear is the most unreliable currency in the world. To master presence, you must understand the difference between control and coercion. Coercion bends others by force. Control bends them by gravity. One exhausts itself, the other renews itself endlessly. Coercion creates tension that must be constantly maintained. Gravity creates obedience that feels natural, inevitable. When your presence radiates calm authority, others want to follow you. When your energy radiates threat, they want to escape you. That is why intimidation always collapses, not because it fails to command obedience, but because it commands resentment instead. The master never threatens, he implies. He allows others to imagine the consequences. When he speaks, it's measured. When he pauses, it's deliberate. The threat lives in his restraint, because everyone knows the man who doesn't need to show force probably has the most of it. The moment you try to look dangerous, you look desperate. True danger does not need to advertise. It's felt, it's quiet. It's the difference between a dagger on the table and a dagger still sheathed. Both exist, but only one needs to be feared. And here lies the paradox. People think dominance means visibility, that they must project power to be perceived as powerful. But projection is performance, and performance demands constant validation. It makes you dependent on your audience's reaction. If they stop fearing you, you vanish. Presence, on the other hand, does not depend on the room. It changes the room. When you're calm under pressure, others begin to doubt themselves. When you're silent in the face of hostility, they begin to hear their own weakness echoing back at them. You must train yourself to see through the illusion of intimidation, both in others and in yourself. When someone shouts at you, remain still, let them hear their own noise. When someone tries to provoke you, look at them, unblinking, as if you're studying a pattern. Do not react, do not defend. The longer they talk, the smaller they become. The moment you rise to meet their aggression, you validate it. The moment you stay still, you make it irrelevant. This is not passivity, it's strategic cruelty, because silence makes the aggressor face himself, and most men can't survive that confrontation. This discipline is not easy. It demands you suppress the primal urge to fight noise with noise. It requires you to value control more than victory, to win not through reaction but through patience. You must learn to delay your response until it becomes unnecessary. That delay, that refusal to be dragged into their chaos, is what separates rulers from the ruled. For every second you remain calm, their power decays. Every moment you hold your gaze, their mask cracks a little more. Eventually, their intimidation collapses under the weight of your stillness. History's greatest manipulators knew this. They never needed to shout. Their calm created the illusion that they already knew how everything would unfold. That illusion becomes prophecy, because once people believe you are certain, they behave as if your certainty is truth. This is the secret architecture of psychological control. Intimidation makes people react. Composure makes them align. The first exhausts your energy, the second multiplies it. So the next time you feel the urge to prove yourself, stop. Let the silence work. The moment you stop reacting to intimidation, you begin to reverse it. You take back control by refusing to participate in another's game. They wanted chaos. You gave them quiet. They wanted fear. You gave them indifference. In that indifference lies power, because nothing is more frightening to the manipulative than someone they cannot move. But even stillness, even composure, has its limit. There is a deeper layer to control, one that operates beneath noise, beyond intimidation. It's not about silence or fear, it's about energy, the subtle vibration that leaks from your body, your eyes, your breath. It's what people feel from you before they even think about you. In the next chapter, you will learn to weaponize this, to make every breath, every glance, every still moment radiate inevitability. Because once your very existence begins to command without effort, words and intimidation become obsolete. The noise of restlessness is the death of authority. You've seen it in yourself, in others. The compulsion to speak, to fill silence, to prove you're still relevant. It's the twitch of the insecure mind, terrified of being unseen. Every unnecessary word, every nervous explanation, every half-laugh meant to smooth tension. These are not harmless habits. They are betrayals. Each one leaks power. Each one teaches the world that you fear stillness. The truth is that most people don't lose control because someone overpowers them. They lose it because they cannot endure their own quiet. In every social encounter, there is an invisible rhythm, a pulse of dominance and submission. Most are deaf to it, so they rush to fill silence, thinking words buy influence. They don't realize that silence is the currency of the strong. The weak rush to speak, the powerful make others wait. And while the restless man drowns in his own noise, the silent one listens, collects and calculates. Every unnecessary sentence is a crack in the armor. Every ramble says, "I need you to understand me." But the powerful man never needs to be understood, only obeyed, or at least respected. You can always recognize the restless by their movements. The fidgeting hands, the shifting eyes, the excessive nodding. These gestures scream insecurity louder than any confession. They reveal a man's lack of internal alignment. His body leaks what his mouth tries to hide. In contrast, a still man is terrifying. His composure reads as control. His lack of movement suggests mastery of impulse. He is not carried by the current, he directs it. And because people interpret stillness as certainty, they yield to it. The one who can remain motionless while others scramble owns their rhythm. He becomes the center of gravity. But the restlessness runs deeper than gestures. It is psychological addiction to validation, to reaction, to sound. In the digital age, this addiction has become epidemic. The endless scroll, the constant reply, the need to announce opinions, all of it feeds the same disease, the inability to sit with oneself. People no longer know how to exist without broadcasting. They are terrified of irrelevance, unaware that the moment they stop chasing attention, attention begins chasing them. Stillness feels like death to them, but it's actually resurrection. The moment you withdraw your energy from the noise, you become rare. And rarity is the new power. Machiavelli warned that men who cannot master their emotions will forever serve those who can. The same is true of restlessness. The restless man becomes predictable, easily provoked, easily read, easily used. He cannot control the pace of a conversation or the direction of an argument. His need to speak betrays him before his words even reach the air. The composed man, however, controls everything by doing nothing. He does not interrupt. He does not rush to defend. He lets others reveal themselves. His restraint forces them to talk more, to expose their motives, to overstep. And when they do, he strikes, not with aggression, but with precision. If you want to own a room, you must kill your restlessness. Begin with the smallest gestures. Control your breathing. Anchor your hands. Stop explaining. Stop justifying. Speak only when silence has already built anticipation. Every word you say should feel like the conclusion of a thought others were too afraid to voice. That's how you create weight. That's how people start listening, not because they have to, but because they don't want to miss what comes next. In that restraint, presence multiplies. The quieter you become, the more every sound you make becomes sacred. You must also master the art of deliberate pauses. A pause is not hesitation. It's a weapon. It creates tension. It lets others reveal what you already sensed. When you speak too quickly, you show anxiety. When you pause intentionally, you show control. You turn silence into a psychological mirror, forcing others to confront their own impatience. The longer you can hold it without discomfort, the stronger your presence becomes. People will feel drawn to fill the void you leave. Let them. Every second they talk, they surrender more of themselves to you. But there's a deeper reason why restlessness destroys power. It signals dependence on the environment. The man who cannot stay quiet, depends on reaction to know he exists. He's addicted to feedback, enslaved by attention. Power demands the opposite, the ability to remain whole, even when ignored. The strong man does not fear being misunderstood, misjudged, or forgotten. He knows his worth without needing it echoed. That independence terrifies the world because it cannot bargain with him. The moment you no longer need validation, you become untouchable. Every king, every leader, every strategist, whoever ruled with precision, knew how to weaponize silence. They understood that control is not gained through motion but through tension. The art of command lies not in activity, but in how long you can hold still while the world trembles around you. You must train your nervous system to enjoy discomfort. Let silence stretch until others beg to end it. Let pauses hang heavy enough to force truth to rise. Learn to stand unmoving while others expose their desperation to be seen. Because in every social interaction, the one who moves first loses. And yet, there's a trap waiting for even the disciplined. A subtler form of restlessness disguised as loyalty and dependence. A form that hides beneath courtesy, hierarchy, or admiration. It whispers, "Lean on me, trust my title, follow the system." In the next chapter, you'll see why even men who master silence often fall into the deeper pit, dependency. Why those who lean on external sources of power, wealth, position, approval, build empires on sand, and how to sever every cord that makes you need others to feel strong. Dependency is the quiet killer of power. It disguises itself as connection, as loyalty, as partnership, but underneath, it is the slow surrender of autonomy. Every time you rely on something outside yourself to feel strong, you give away a piece of control. You think the title makes you powerful, but it's a leash. You think the money secures you, but it cages you. You think their approval validates you, but it owns you. Power that depends on anything external is not power, it's permission, and permission can be revoked at any time. Machiavelli warned that a prince who leans on others for defense or fortune will be destroyed the moment their loyalty shifts. Modern men make the same mistake in subtler forms. They lean on reputation, on wealth, on influence by association. They anchor their self-worth in their audience, their followers, their salary, their lovers' validation. But true control cannot coexist with dependence. Because the moment your sense of power comes from outside yourself, it can be taken. And when it's taken, you crumble. Not because they destroyed you, but because you never truly existed without them. You can always recognize dependency in those who flaunt what they have, instead of who they are. The man who must mention his connections in every conversation. The woman who drops names like weapons. The leader who hides behind "we" because "I" feels too small. They've built their confidence on borrowed foundations, mistaking reflected light for their own fire. And yet, if those same sources vanish, the network, the wealth, the applause, what remains? Nothing but silence. The dependent man cannot survive silence. He needs others to echo his worth back to him. Without that echo, his identity disintegrates. The most dangerous illusion is believing that security comes from accumulation. People chase stability through things, money, fame, titles, not realizing that the more they accumulate, the more they depend on maintaining it. Wealth creates comfort, but also fear of loss. Influence creates attention, but also the terror of obscurity. Dependency breeds anxiety, and anxiety destroys presence. You can't control a room if you fear losing what gives you control. The moment your composure relies on external certainty, you've already surrendered the throne. The truly powerful invert the equation. They detach not because they reject the world, but because they refuse to be ruled by it. They understand that power flows from within and projects outward. Everything external, wealth, position, influence, is merely an amplifier, not a source. Lose the amplifier and nothing changes. Because the real current runs beneath it all, the unshakable calm that no loss can touch. That's why the independent man unnerves the dependent. He cannot be bribed, flattered, or threatened. He does not need. And when you do not need, the world obeys you by instinct. Dependency corrupts in subtle ways. It teaches you to adapt your tone, your posture, your opinions to whoever holds advantage over you. You begin to measure your worth by their reaction. You censor yourself to protect your comfort. You smile when you should stay silent, agree when you should walk away, It feels like diplomacy, but it's decay. Every compromise of authenticity trades long-term power for short-term approval. And once you start negotiating your integrity, the collapse becomes inevitable. You'll wake up one day, realizing your entire presence was built to keep others pleased, not to keep yourself sovereign. Detach yourself from the illusion that dependency equals stability. The people who promise to protect you will one day protect themselves. The systems that praise you will turn when you're no longer useful. Even those who love you cannot carry your strength for you. You must become your own foundation, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. That doesn't mean isolation. It means mastery. Engage with others, but never need them. Use resources, but never serve them. Enjoy wealth, but never depend on it. Everything you use should amplify your internal control, not replace it. The reason dependency is so seductive is because it feels safe. It whispers, rest here, you don't need to hold it all yourself. And for a while it works. But slowly, invisibly, your edge dulls. You stop sharpening yourself because you trust the structure to hold you. You stop listening to your instincts because the world seems predictable. That's when life strikes. Systems collapse, allies change, the economy shifts, and suddenly those who built their strength on the external crumble. But the independent one, the one who learned to trust nothing but his own poise, he adjusts instantly. He moves like water because nothing outside can destabilize him. You must train this independence like a muscle. Begin by denying yourself small dependencies, the compulsion to explain yourself, the reflex to seek reassurance, the habit of checking for validation. Replace them with silence. Each time you resist dependency, your center hardens. You become less moved by praise, less shaken by rejection. Others will notice the shift before you do. They will say you've changed, that you've grown cold. What they mean is that you've stopped being controllable. Dependency is not just emotional, it's energetic. Every time you crave something to feel complete, you leak energy toward it. The powerful man reverses this flow. He draws energy inward until his very stillness radiates sufficiency. He doesn't chase connection, connection orbits him. He doesn't fight for loyalty, loyalty grows in his shadow. This magnetic independence is what kings and conquerors cultivated behind their stoic faces. The world mistook it for arrogance, but it was simply freedom. Detach first, rule second. The man who owns nothing internally can be given everything externally and still remain himself. The man who depends on nothing is the only one who cannot be broken. But beware, even mastery of independence has its shadow. For some, detachment becomes performance. They wear control like armor, but inside, the dependency mutates. It no longer attaches to people or wealth, but to image, to being seen as untouchable. In the next chapter, you will see how this illusion, the charade of control, traps even the disciplined, because the most fragile ego often hides behind the most perfect mask. The charade of control is the most dangerous illusion of all, because it feels like mastery while quietly rotting your foundation. You tell yourself you've detached, that you've transcended dependency, that you're calm and composed. But beneath the surface, your energy is still enslaved to perception. You no longer crave approval, but you crave to appear like you don't. You no longer need power, but you need to look powerful. And that need, that subtle performance, is enough to undo everything. The moment you begin performing control, you lose it, because control that needs to be seen is control already surrendered. Many fall into this trap after reaching their first taste of dominance. They learn restraint, they learn silence, they learn how to hold a room. People start to notice the aura, the composure, the calm certainty, and instead of maintaining it as discipline, they begin cultivating it as image. They stare too long in mirrors. They measure their stillness for effect. Every movement becomes self-conscious. Every pause becomes performance. What was once natural now becomes mechanical. The energy shifts from mastery to mimicry. They are no longer in control of themselves. They are controlled by the version of themselves they want others to see. You can spot this charade everywhere. In the man who acts unbothered, yet always watches who's watching him. In the leader who preaches composure but rages when criticized. In the strategist who pretends he doesn't care while secretly keeping score. Their calmness is fragile because it's built on external observation. It's a glass palace, beautiful, impressive, but one question away from shattering. The truly powerful never think about how they appear. They think about outcomes. They do not manage their image, they manage their reality. Machiavelli understood this distinction better than anyone. He wrote that appearances matter, but only as tools, never as anchors. To rely on appearances is to live in reaction. Every glance, every opinion becomes a potential threat to your equilibrium. You become addicted to consistency, to always seeming unshakable, and in that addiction, you lose adaptability. Real power flows, shifts, disguises itself when necessary. It bends without breaking. But the man addicted to his own mask cannot bend. He must remain rigid, because his identity depends on being unreadable, and rigidity always breaks under pressure. The charade of control destroys leaders, lovers, kings alike. They grow obsessed with perfection, terrified of vulnerability. They confuse invulnerability with invincibility, unaware that the two are opposites. Invulnerability hides from impact. Invincibility absorbs it. One isolates you, the other strengthens you. When you hide every flaw, when you silence every emotion, when you never allow yourself to be seen as human, you stop commanding presence, you start commanding distance. People obey your image, but they never trust your essence. And power without trust is brittle. It cannot survive friction. To avoid this, you must abandon the need to look in control and return to the discipline of being in control. Being in control is not the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. It's feeling everything, anger, pain, temptation, and choosing your response with surgical precision. It's not denying your humanity, but governing it. When you suppress emotion, it festers. When you control it, it becomes fuel. The calm you see in the truly dominant man is not detachment, it's direction. His stillness is not numbness, it's focus. Every reaction you withhold becomes stored potential, a reservoir of energy waiting for the exact moment to act. But make no mistake, this requires brutal self-awareness. You must audit every move, every glance, every sentence that exists purely to preserve your image. If you pause before speaking because it feels strategic, it's control. If you pause because you want to look strategic, it's vanity. If you stay quiet because silence gives you clarity, it's mastery. If you stay quiet because you want to seem mysterious, it's insecurity. The line is razor thin, and only the honest can walk it. This honesty begins in solitude. Away from the audience, you must strip off every performance and face what's left. If your confidence fades when no one's watching, it was never confidence, it was choreography. Real control grows in private, in the moments no one applauds. It's built in how you handle frustration, failure, boredom. The world will only mirror what you already are. If your calm collapses in silence, your presence was an act. But if your calm deepens there, your power is real. There's a reason those who truly dominate rarely post, rarely explain, rarely display. They are too busy becoming. They know every moment spent proving control is energy wasted. They understand that mystery is not created by hiding, it's created by existing without explanation. The less you need to be seen, the more others project greatness onto you. That projection is worth more than any performance, because it is built not by effort, but by absence. Eventually, the charade will tempt you again, especially when you begin to see results, when others start treating you with deference, when your silence starts pulling gravity, when the room waits for your next move. In that moment, remember, power is maintained by discipline, not admiration. The second you start enjoying the admiration, you begin decaying, because admiration is still dependency, just dressed in gold. So how do you stay untouchable without becoming a statue? The answer lies not in denial, but in detachment from reaction itself. To reach that level, you must move beyond image, beyond stillness, beyond validation. You must enter a realm where emotions no longer command you, where even provocation and insult pass through you like smoke. That is the next law of presence, emotional sovereignty, the ability to stand in fire and never burn. In the next part, you will see how every outburst, every reaction, every flash of anger is not power, it is proof that someone else has the remote to your mind. Power is not a pose. It's not silence for display, or dominance for attention. It's the quiet authority that moves through you when you no longer need to prove anything. The men who rule without speaking, who walk into rooms and bend the atmosphere, they are not performing, they are centered. Every motion, every breath, every pause is deliberate because nothing inside them is frantic. Their calm is not decoration, it is design. Presence is built the same way a fortress is built, brick by brick, discipline by discipline. You strip away noise, you master stillness, you detach from dependency, you remove the performance, and what remains is gravity, the kind that others orbit without realizing why. They call it charisma, they call it mystery, they call it luck. But you'll know what it really is, the law of presence, lived. Because when you no longer chase control, it comes to you. When you no longer perform strength, it radiates from you. The world bends not to the man who shouts loudest, but to the one whose silence carries certainty. You are not here to impress, you are here to impose. Without a word, without a gesture, just the stillness that says, I am inevitable. Carry that stillness into every room, every moment, every challenge. Let others waste themselves proving they belong. You already do. You have nothing to announce, only everything to command. And remember, mastery is not in what you say, it's in what your silence makes others confess.